So hello, welcome to the video and welcome to Heathrow Terminal 5's railway station, a different location for today's intro. Now I'm not flying on British Airways today, which given there's only two airlines that operate from this terminal means I must be flying on Iberia. Now I have a Patreon account, I mention it occasionally on the channel, but it's turned into a thriving community of about 150 people. And one of the benefits of membership is that a couple of times a year I'll book a ticket somewhere and invite anyone who fancies it to come with me. So last December about 20 of us went to Prague and had a fantastic time. In fact, the only real problem was that it was freezing cold. So I thought I'd pick somewhere warm this summer to go, and so today about 30 of us are going to be assembling in Madrid for a couple of days. And I think it's impossible for 30 people to go for a couple of days to Madrid in the summer and not have a good time. So I needed to get to Madrid. Now over the years on the channel I've reviewed quite a few Euro business cabins. None of them have been particularly good, but I saw this as a great opportunity to see what Iberia offers in its shortish haul business cabins. Now a couple of times a day they operate a wide body on this route, but I deliberately chose to fly on a narrow body because I think that will be more representative of the experience you're going to get flying Iberia around Europe. So if you'd like to see what Iberia's shortish haul business experience is like down to Madrid, and you'd like to see a few shots of what happened there, stick around.
Hi, I'm Matt and this is Matt's Planet. I aim to entertain, educate and inspire with my travel adventures from planning to execution. I'll show you how you can travel in style for a lot less than you'd think. So subscribe so you can come with me.
Iberia's check-in desks are in Zone A in Terminal 5, which is at the extreme north end of the terminal, the end you'll find yourself at if you arrive by tube or train. I had checked in online and had no checked baggage, so headed to the first wing, which is the complete other end of the terminal at the extreme south end. You can still use this BA facility to clear security and access the lounges, even if flying on Iberia, but you will have to go to the Iberia desks if you need anything, I guess. The first wing experience really never gets old, and is probably my favourite perk of having gold status with BA, which equates to emerald status with their One World partners. On this occasion I was able to guest one of my patrons travelling with me, so he had his first wing experience on this trip. He was so impressed he's now got gold status in his own right, so he can repeat this every trip without relying on being guested. I've talked about the T5 lounges many times before. Check out this video for a run through of most of them, so I'll just say that the first lounge was pretty quiet on this Friday lunchtime in June. I'll fast forward to boarding, and we were departing from gate A21 that morning. Boarding was underway when we reached the gate, so we missed the opportunity to be the first ones aboard. And Iberia put itself in the group of airlines that values punctuality above customer satisfaction. The plane was not ready, so we ended up being buffered in the boarding finger for 10 or 12 minutes before we reached the plane. At least the temperature was okay that day. Airlines do this to get their passengers aboard the seconds the plane is ready, rather than losing a few minutes by only dispatching people down to the gate once they receive the all clear from the plane. It's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. And eventually onto the plane, a 4-year-old Airbus A320 that day. A quick peek into the cockpit, which is always nice, and seat 2A for me that afternoon. The usual Euro business setup of having a blocked middle seat in this 5-row business cabin. Using the middle seat for your carry-on is a little unusual. Not great legroom as you come to expect on these flights, but the table was clean and the seat was okay, all things considered. Survivable for the 2 hours it would take to get down to Madrid. If you can snag a business seat on a wide-body aircraft flying this route, it's a radically different and better experience. Overhead lights and air vents, well done Iberia, and there was also Wi-Fi available. I thought it was good value, free messaging in business class or if you're an Iberia Plus member, and then it's €6 to be able to stream for the whole flight. Even with the boarding not boarding tactic, we ended up pushing back about 20 minutes behind schedule, and it took another 20 minutes to trundle up to the other end of the airfield and wait our turn to take off. At least we got a good view of the retired Concorde while we waited. And up into a decent summery afternoon. It turned out that the weather in Madrid was worse than it ended up being in England that weekend, which was a little annoying. A menu was distributed. Once again, my camera let me down when it came to focusing, but I did download it to my phone, so I have a version that is actually legible. Hake or vegetarian was perhaps an unusual choice, certainly an atypical one, but it was actually really nice to have an option different to the usual chicken or beef. The meal service began quite quickly once we levelled off after takeoff. The starter was perhaps visually unappealing, but that red pepper sauce really lifted this dish. It was quite delicious. Then the hake with spinach and spuds, a decent lump of fish too, with a panna cotta to finish. The fish was very good, not dry, but perhaps a minute less in the oven would have perfected it. Washed down with a nice Spanish rioja, actually with two nice Spanish riojas. Cheers! Like BA, Iberia now sources its food from Dough & Co, which may be the best decision the IAG group has made in the last 5 years, as it was all good, and I don't even like panna cottas. And to round things out, Spain's airline offered some decent Spanish brandy. I think the flight attendant got distracted mid-pour when she prepared this one, not that I was complaining. The chap with the middle seat bag had swapped seats with another of my patrons who was also on this flight, so the time passed very quickly in conversation with him. And before I knew it, we were descending into an overcast Madrid. Hey, I didn't even have time to film yet another Airbus A320 toilet. I'm sure we can all cope with a flight review that doesn't feature an airplane toilet. And despite the delays taking off, the padding built into flight schedules these days meant we ended up landing 4 minutes early. So Iberia's Euro business experience. I don't make many videos about economy flights these days, as they end up being quite dull and very samey, as the seats are pretty much all the same and not a lot happens. And I'm starting to get the same feeling about the videos I make about these sorts of business class experiences, especially when your seat is only in the business cabin because the demand for those seats pushed the curtain behind the row you're sat in. Yes, food was included, and yes, it was really quite good. Yes, drinks were included, indeed they positively flowed on this flight, and yes, they were really quite good. And the crew were friendly and attentive, so there's really nothing to complain about, but there was nothing that really differentiated this from the experience you get on BA, or on TAP, or on Swiss, Lufthansa, or any of the other Euro carriers. The food and drink had a Spanish feel to it, but I really could have been on any of those other airlines, and this video would have ended up feeling very similar. This was a redemption booking and I flew back in economy class. I'm not making a video about that flight, don't worry. And it cost me 19,250 avios plus 73 quid for both flights, which, as I get my avios at 0.22 of a p each, meant I paid £115 for these flights. So a good experience overall at an excellent price. But next time I'll try and book a seat on a wide body. Britain was never in the Schengen region, so flights have always arrived into the T4S terminal in Madrid, which is actually a very nice terminal. But since we left the EU, we have been punished by not being allowed to use the EU immigration kiosks. Although we did ask for the EU to treat us as a third country, so we shouldn't complain. Democracy at its finest, eh? Anywho, about a 20-minute wait to be allowed into Spain, then onto the train across to the main part of Terminal 4, then another couple of trains into the centre of Madrid. So when we were in Madrid, we ate some great stuff, we drank some great stuff, and a lot of nonsense was talked. We even found an Iberia office which had quite a few aviation-themed attractions and offered a free bar to anyone with One World Emerald status. Only wines, beers and nibbles, and I think they were a little baffled as to why 30 Brits randomly descended on them en masse, but for 2 hours it was right up our alley. There was also a mock-up of their new A350 interiors, and here's Marcel proving that this video-making lark really isn't that hard.
What do you think of it so far? How's the mechanism?
The mechanism's smooth, but I'm 5'10".
5'10".
And this feels really
Tell me about the foot space.
It's as tight as anything. You won't sleep on your side. It's
For a 12-hour flight to Santiago?
no, not for me.
It's not for Matt, so I'm afraid that's a no, Iberia.
So if you'd like to join this crazy gang and join us on our next adventure, there'll be a link to my Patreon account in the description below. The next trip will be more wintry, and whilst I won't reveal the destination here, it will involve beer. Like, comment and subscribe, you know the drill, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.